One question we get all the time is it worth paying a 1% management fee for an advisor team to serve you ongoing? So in today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, we're going to cover that answer. And I'm going to tell you pretty frankly when that's not right to do and when it is right to do. And it's ultimately going to depend on what kind of team you're going to be working with, but also what are you looking for? So at the end of the day, maybe an advisor team is not right for everyone. It's all about depending on what your goals are, what your concerns are, and how you're going to get that solved in the end. So that's what's in the store today of Joe Knows Retirement, and here we go.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
Now, let me just start off with this video by letting you know I am overly biased here, but obviously with this educational YouTube channel, we try to keep things and remove biases and really just ensure it's really educational so people can get the most out of it. At our firm here at Peak Retirement Planning, we specialize in helping what we call Midwestern millionaires. I wrote a book on this concept, and basically the concept is that we can't help everyone. I mean, we have a lot of people coming to want to work with us, and so this channel gives us a really good opportunity to reach as many people as possible. So what this is all about is helping those decide what kind of team that is, whether that's a team like us or someone else. What are the things to look for, and what are the things maybe you're working with an advisor and you're paying a 1% fee, but maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you're not getting enough value where it may make sense just to do it on your own or seek out more comprehensive help like we're talking about here today. So with that being said, hopefully this is educational and helpful for you. So let me just start off by sharing 10 different things that I see every day from these people wanting to come work with us, of what they're looking for and what some of their concerns are. And this is coming mostly from those who either already have an advisor or have been just doing it themselves all these years. And so one of the first things we always see is investment management. If your advisor is only doing investment management and charging a full 1% assets under management fee, they may be overcharging for that service, in my opinion. I mean, you've probably seen out there, you can go to Vanguard and get a CFP, a certified financial planner, to pick your investment portfolio for basically 30 basis points. And so if you're just looking for the most low-cost option, there's options like that. There's also robo-advisors, which charge anywhere from typically 0.2 to 0.5%. So we definitely advise everyone to get professional investment management, whether that's through one of those type of robo-advisors where they're rebalancing, where they're making sure you're diversified, where they're tracking market trends to ensure you're invested in the right spots. And so we always recommend that. And so that if that's the only thing you're looking for, let's say you already have tax planning figured out. Let's say that you've watched enough of these videos and you feel like you have a very good grasp on that, then that's where I would tell someone to go versus just paying 1% for an advisor who's only doing investment management. Now, if your team is providing comprehensive planning and going deep, then maybe it does make sense to pay that 1%. And I'll tell you, I think it makes a ton of sense based on the clients that we see. But we do have a lot of clients who have come from more of those investment management. Either they only did a 1% or maybe Vanguard, and they just said it wasn't really enough for them. It was great. They weren't paying a high cost, but they weren't getting enough value outside of the investment management. They feel like they were missing things. So those are some of the things to look out for. But again, if your advisor's only doing that and he or she's charging 1%, I would typically say run away. That's probably not the best situation for you, because when it comes to professional investment management, we always tell people, regardless if it's us or another firm, don't work with a firm just because of their investment management. We all do the same things. We all have the same, true investment philosophies that have been, timeless. We all have the same type of tools and resources when we're looking to pick those investments. We're all going to do about what the market does. Our goal is to do a little better, but we're not out here trying to seek 10% plus returns via the market, on top of the market, because then you're just going to be taking on a lot more risks than maybe what you want to. And again, most of our clients at Midwestern Millionaire, they don't want to necessarily take on more risk than they need to at this point. They want to make sure that they are being smart about their investments and not just being, overly aggressive. And so if that's you, just be aware of how everyone operates, and that, you could probably get that service for a lot less cost or blend it in that comprehensive approach there. The second thing where I think a 1% fee doesn't make sense if you're working with an advisor looking to is if they're not going to be communicating with you throughout the year. So some advisors say they're going to contact you, they're going to have set up meetings, but sometimes it never happens. And I can say that because I've seen it with my eyes, and we have so many people that work with us and say, yeah, my advisor never talked to me, never reached out, she never reached out. And that's the number one reason why people leave their financial planner is because of communication. And so for a firm like ours, we meet with our clients every quarter. We're always adding value every single quarter to make sure that we're being proactive. For example, if tax rules change or different legislative changes that's going to impact the plan, we want to make sure we get ahead of that. And our clients are always welcome to reach out to us. We always get back within 24 hours. We have a specific client email address that it gets to the top of our inbox. Our internal goal is 4 hours to get back to people. But again, just over communicate. Whenever a client wants to schedule with us, our calendar's open and we ensure that happens. And so something you may want to look for as you're looking for a team is, what is their advisor to client ratio? We've had an advisor come from a different firm, and he said it was more like 300 to 1 was their goal, 300 clients for every one advisor. And in my mind, that's just way too much. The industry average, maybe more of 100 to 200 is typically what we see. Our goal is to keep that 50 to 1 or less is ultimately our goal, so that we have that buffer to be able to over deliver when people need it versus saying, oh, sorry, we don't have the time. If someone's going to commit their life savings to a team, it's just my belief that they should be going above and beyond and ensuring that that happens. And so just something to look for as you are looking for a team is ensure they're meeting with you, more than just that once a year, more than just every few years. Make sure they're on top of things and really getting ahead of it is where that 1% fee could start to make more sense. But again, if you're not getting it, probably not worth it. The third thing that we see is what we call the 5 pillars. And I've kind of mentioned this, the comprehensive planning, but we would recommend if you are going to pay a 1% fee that you're going to get all 5 pillars in one place. So that's going to be investment management, income planning, that's going to be tax planning, estate planning, and healthcare planning. So all of those blended together to ensure that you're not missing anything. So like something we do for our clients, we have a checklist with each pillar that we go through for our clients to ensure that everything's in place. And so, if your advisor's not doing all 5 of those pillars and they're not collaborating with the professionals, and you're probably going to miss things. And again, that's where your 1% may not be getting the most value. And again, if they're not doing that, I'd probably tell you don't pay 1%. You're probably going to be in the same position if you just did it yourself and not paid that fee, if you're not going to get those added services that really add a lot of value. So hopefully that's helpful for you there. And on top of that, for the fourth point is having that attorney and CPA and all the professionals working together all in one place. We see too often in the industry where there's not enough advisors coordinating or collaborating with the other professionals. Most of the time they're not even in their own office. They have to go across town, or they have to call the client CPA, or they have to call the attorney and 1, hope that everything is done the right way. 2, hope they get back to them. 3, hope they go the extra mile to make sure it gets done, to get the advisor's questions answered. And 4, they better hope they don't bill the client, because that's typically what we see. And so, we're big believers that if everything's in one house, it's typically going to get done better. And the reason why is because of that collaboration. Something we always strive for here is having our advisors in the meetings with every professional they meet with, being that quarterback to ensure everything gets done the right way. Because how is someone going to know all the details of tax prep and estate planning if that's not what they study? So that's where we try to make sure we're there and then make sure everything's aligned. So for example, if our clients get estate planning documents, we want to see that through and ensure that gets done the right way. Or for tax prep, we're doing all this tax planning throughout the year. Are we just going to hope that their CPA just gets it done and knows how to file it the right way? Or is it better for that CPA to be right there and understand all the strategies we're implementing, but also be able to ask that advisor by walking over to their office to ensure that they get the right accurate information? So just something we're a big believer of is having that collaborative approach. And again, if you're paying 1% and not getting that, you may be missing out on some opportunities, and overpaying for that service would be the consideration. The fifth point is for those who are nearing that Medicare age. So I mentioned in the last point, but having a Medicare specialist in-house is something that we've seen be very valuable for our clients. And the reason why is because if you are 65, we get a lot of people watching these YouTube channels between 55 and 70. So if you're kind of that 65 to 70, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. If you're getting up for that age, then you know what to expect. And so when you turn 65 or right before you do, you're going to get tons of mailers. You're going to get all these steak dinner invites. You're going to get all of these phone calls from people trying to sell you Medicare plans, and you're not going to know what to do or what's right for you or who's got your best interest at heart, right? And so like something we do at our firm and other firms do it as well is ensuring that that person can meet with the client, with the advisor, like we just talked about, to ensure they get the right Medicare supplemental plan, to make sure they understand how Medicare Part B premiums work within their income planning and tax planning throughout retirement, so they're not ending up paying more for Medicare but getting the same coverage. And so just making sure that's all built in-house just makes it easier. You don't have to stress about missing it or being sold something that's not going to be right for you. And the sixth thing to really drive those two last points home is just that team approach, and even outside of all the professionals, but making sure the advisors work together. So so many times have we seen just people come from other firms where they only have one advisor, and typically they're getting changed advisors all throughout the year. Either that advisor leaves or they just changed an advisor on them, and it's just like starting from scratch. There's no collaboration amongst the advisors in that team. And so something that we do and that we would advise you to look for a team that does this is have two advisors in every single meeting to ensure that there's that different perspectives. There's things getting done in the meeting, outside of just talking, making sure that everything's getting implemented and changed as needed. And we've seen that, hey, what if an advisor gets hit by a bus? Well, that other advisor can step in. And something that we do as a team is we ensure that our notes are very detailed, but also our team can all take the same type of notes so everyone understands what's going on. So even if an advisor wasn't in any of the past meetings, if they step in, they know exactly where things are left off. And also with the explanation of the advisor, they're able to understand it. So, if you are looking for more of that team approach, we have a lot of people that come to us saying they want to make sure they have a team to help them not only for their retirement, but also their spouse's retirement and also their kids' retirement. And I always joke about this is, well, what about the grandkids? You're just going to leave them hanging? And I joke because, obviously you can see we're younger, I'm a younger advisor. We've got a younger team. We're going to be here for the grandkids. Are you okay with that? And typically, obviously that's one of the biggest reasons people work with us. The average age of an advisor is about 56. So, just making sure you're working with a team so that if that advisor does retire or something happens to that advisor, what's going to happen. When I first started Peak Retirement, it was just me, Thank the Lord, my mom joined me about a month in, and then my buddy from 4th grade joined me 7 months in. But at that time, so many people asked me, so what happens if something happens to you? What happens to our money, right? And obviously it's all secure. It's in a custodian. We can't hold clients' money in our bank accounts. No advisors can do that. That's part of being registered with the SEC, which is the federal installation. So you have to have so many assets under management to be under the SEC. So a lot of the bigger firms are under the SEC, and some of the smaller may be under the state. So just be aware of that too as you search for a team, and that can kind of tell you, how successful is that firm and what's their focus. But then as soon as we started to build out the team, clients started to feel more comfortable knowing that, hey, if something happens, we've got this whole team that all work together to get the job done. And a seventh reason why it may make sense to, not pay that 1% fee is if maybe you just enjoy this. Maybe you're a DIYer. We have so many people watch this channel and schedule time with us and end up becoming clients who were former DIYers. And typically they get to a point where they just say, hey, I want to stop worrying about this. I want to delegate. I want to make sure there's someone there for my spouse if I pass away. And I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And a lot of them really struggle with the tax planning side of things because obviously that's pretty difficult. But if it's a hobby of yours and you just love maintaining, ownership, and maybe you're okay not maximizing things, maybe in your position where you got enough money and you just are okay not fully maximizing it, then that's where I would say, why do it, right? I would not do it myself personally, but I'm just speaking of, others out there that maybe that's more going to help you sleep at night better, of just having that fun and being able to do it yourself. Obviously, there's some things to be concerned about, but that's just up to you to decide if that's worth it or not to pay that fee or not. And I know we have some people that come and work with us where that's ultimately a decision point that they've had to think about. And typically, if they do make that decision to work with us, typically it comes from a place of, let's just make sure everything is structured and good. I trust that they can add more value than the fee, which is, obviously always the case. We tell our clients if you don't feel like we're adding enough value, good news is because you can leave at any time. We would never try to lock someone in, and that's the case for the majority of firms out there. Some firms may charge an upfront fee. I tell you to be aware of that, just in case you're not happy, so you can have room to pivot and move your money somewhere else or do it on your own or whatever that may be. The eighth point where I think that 1% fee doesn't make sense is if your advisor, when you ask them about tax planning, you ask them about Roth conversions, if they say, well, yeah, we can't do tax planning, we're not tax specialists, so you need to see your CPA. And when we have people come and see us, we hear that often as one of their concerns. And typically it's like, yep, our advisor told us this. I know it's not right. We need further help, and we want to work with you guys. Because I just don't think that's right. I mean, if we're financial planners, our goal is to advise on every part of the financial life. We tell our clients we'll do everything except cut your grass. Any question about financials, we're going to either do the research and come up with a solution and come up with some feedback of pros and cons. And so if someone tells you to go see your CPA, typically what happens is then you go see your CPA, and your CPA says, well, we don't do tax planning either, so you're kind of just stuck. And we see that happen often. So again, if you're paying a full fee but not getting full service, I'm not a big fan of that. I'd rather see you get you've worked so hard for this for the last 40 years. You've been a diligent saver. Maximize it, right? Don't just pay fees to help the advisor, be successful when if they're not doing the work, that may not be worth it. The ninth point here is one we hear often, where people come to us and they say, I feel like I'm advising my advisor more than they're advising me. And that's something where, hey, if you get that feeling, you probably don't want to pay the fee if you're doing all the work, right? If you're doing the research or bringing up the ideas, probably not worth it. Again, you can do the investment management at a lot lower cost if that's your goal, or you can seek out help from a comprehensive team and probably pay the same amount or even less typically is sometimes what we see. So just keep that in mind if that's going to be the case. And then the 10th point, which you really have to watch out for, is mutual funds. So, a lot of advisors out there, they charge their management fee, which is 1%, and then they also invest in mutual funds. And so mutual funds have an added cost, and it can be hidden. The advisors don't necessarily have to disclose that to you, and it's called an internal expense. So if you take the funds you're invested in, and there's something called a ticker symbol, and if you look that up online, you'll be able to find that internal expense. It'll be a little buried, but you'll be able to find it pretty quickly if you just type in Fidelity, growth fund, and then type in internal expense, and it should pop up. With AI nowadays, it usually gets you pretty quick to the answer. But that could typically be anywhere from 0.5 to 1% extra, and sometimes even more on top of that management fee. And so that's when you can see, and we see this often, where people come in, they've been with a bigger firm who maybe pushes mutual funds because they get paid more to do so, and so their all-in costs are going to be even more. And we always challenge and say, hey, do you really feel like you're getting the value of that? If you're paying twice the amount in fees, almost 2%, even if they do comprehensive planning, is that even going to be productive, right? And so that's where we're just very wary of that, and just make sure you're aware of that. We typically invest in our clients. We typically look to use individual stocks, which have no cost, and then ETFs or index funds, which are very low cost, so that we can ensure that we're eliminating any unnecessary fees, as we call them. So that's something we always look for. So with all that being said, I hope that just gives you a really good perspective as you think about, what you're going to do moving forward. And as you know, again, I told you at the beginning of the video, I am completely biased. A lot of the things that we talked about in this video is the type of planning that we really want to focus on. The majority of the negatives, obviously, I don't want that to be a part of who we are in our firm. So if you are looking for, to get more for that 1% fee, and you want to explore working with us, you certainly can. We get a lot of clients that come to us from YouTube, and there's a link below in the description that you can actually click a time to schedule with our team. And I just want to be very clear and transparent, though, is that we can't serve everyone that comes to us at this point. Over the last 2 months, especially, we've had over 15 people come to us each week from YouTube wanting to work with us. And, we've kind of made it a goal that we're not going to bring on more than 3 to 5 clients a week to ensure that we don't, suffer our client service as we go, because we want to be the best, not the biggest. Yes, we could bring on everyone that comes to us, but that's just really not our motive. I don't want to be another average financial planning firm that's charging 1% and not giving enough value to support that. And so, we really try hard to hire as much as we can. Obviously, we have very high standards. I think in 2024, I just posted this stat on my LinkedIn, but we had 2,600 applicants, and we only hired 9 of them. And again, that just shows that we want to ensure we get the best people in here to ensure that our clients get the best service. So again, if you do want to explore, then feel free to click that link. There is a questionnaire you'll fill out, and then based on that, gives us a feel if we feel like we could be a good fit or not. And if so, we'll explore further and have a 15-minute call to see if we could be a good fit. And then we typically schedule another session from there to make that decision if this is going to make sense or not. So there you go on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. If you like this, go ahead and subscribe, like the videos, leave some comments on what other topics you'd like to hear. Tell me about the good things you like about this. Would you disagree with that? I'd love to have those conversations and hear what your feedback is. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your day here. This is Joe with Joe Knows Retirement.